Deep within the annals of the great Tang Dynasty, amidst the incense-filled halls of the Forbidden City, a prophecy whispered through the corridors, a prophecy that would make the bravest generals tremble. It spoke of a woman who would wear the Dragon Robe, a woman who would shatter 3,000 years of tradition to stand where no woman had ever stood before. Today, we go back to the 7th century, to witness the life of Wu Zetian. She was not just a ruler. She was a survivor, a genius of psychological warfare, and a mother who made the ultimate, chilling sacrifice for power. How did a teenage girl, sent to a temple to live as a nun, return to the palace to execute her enemies and claim the mandate of heaven? Before we dive into this labyrinth of blood and ambition, if you are a fan of history's most powerful figures and untold secrets, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring these epic stories to life. Now, let us draw back the curtain on the most controversial woman in history. Stage 1: The Silence of the Temple and the Art of the Long Game. Imagine a world of cold stone, the scent of bitter incense, and the repetitive, rhythmic sound of a wooden fish drum. This was Ganya Temple, and for any other woman, it was a graveyard for the living. Wu Zetian, once a vibrant concubine, now stood among the nuns with a shaved head and a plain gray robe. But while the other nuns prayed for the afterlife, Wu was calculating her return to the world of the living. She knew that the young Emperor Gaozong was a man of a different nature than his father. Where the father was a warrior, the son was a romantic, perhaps even a bit fragile. During her final days in the palace, she had not just seduced him. She had become his intellectual equal, his confidant. Now, in the silence of the temple, she gambled everything on one truth: the emperor was lonely. When Gaozong finally visited the temple to offer incense, their eyes met. In that moment, the tears she shed were not just for her fate, they were a weapon. She was not just a former concubine. She was a forbidden fruit, a woman who represented both his father's legacy and his own secret desires. Her return to the palace was not just a move of passion. It was a breach of every moral code of the time, and Wu knew that from that day forward, she would have to be twice as ruthless to survive the scandal she had created. Stage 2: The Cradle of Shadows, the infanticide controversy. Back in the palace, Wu Zetian was no longer a talented lady. Ice had entered her veins. She found herself in a three-way war with Empress Wang and the beautiful consort Xiao. To the outside world, this was a petty rivalry for the emperor's bed. To Wu, it was a battle for the throat of the empire. The year 654 marks the darkest turning point in her legend. Wu gave birth to a daughter, a ray of light in the dim corridors of the harem. One afternoon, Empress Wang visited the nursery to see the child. Shortly after she left, the infant was found dead. When the emperor arrived, he found Wu in a state of inconsolable grief, pointing a trembling finger at the empress. Historical records remain divided. Did the child die of natural causes, or did Wu Zetian, with her own hands, stifle the life of her daughter to seal the empress's fate? To tell this story, we must look at the result. The emperor, blinded by rage and grief, believed Wu. Empress Wang and consort Xiao were not only stripped of their titles but were subjected to a fate so gruesome, having their limbs severed and being thrown into wine vats, that it earned Wu a reputation as a demoness. Whether she committed the crime or simply capitalized on a tragedy, one thing was clear: Wu Zetian had traded her humanity for an iron grip on the throne. Stage 3: The Silk Screen Government, ruling from the shadows. As the years passed, Emperor Gaozong's health began to crumble. He suffered from debilitating strokes and vision loss. This was Wu's moment. She did not just sit by his bedside. She sat behind a pearl curtain during his imperial audiences. To the ministers in the hall, they saw only the silhouette of a woman. But they felt the weight of her intellect. She began to recruit her own team of advisors, known as the North Gate Scholars. These were brilliant men from humble backgrounds who owed everything to her, bypassing the arrogant old aristocrats who had ruled for generations. She implemented a suggestion box, a bronze urn where anyone, from a high official to a lowly farmer, could drop a secret letter reporting corruption or rebellion. This was not just a tool for justice. It was a continent-wide web of spies. She knew what was being whispered in the furthest corners of the empire before the sun set. She was the architect of a new meritocracy, breaking the back of the ancient clans and ensuring that the only way to rise in China was to be loyal to the woman behind the screen. Stage 4, the Mandate of Heaven, declaring the Zhou Dynasty. After Gaozong passed away, the mask finally came off. Her sons, Zhongzong and Ruizong, were mere pawns. When Zhongzong showed a spark of independence, she did not hesitate. She deposed him and sent him into exile within weeks. She realized that as long as a man sat on the throne, she would always be a regent, a temporary placeholder. She wanted to be the source of power itself. In 690, Wu Zetian did what no woman had dared in 3 millennia. She declared herself Huangdi the Emperor. She claimed to be the reincarnation of the Maitreya Buddha, sent to bring a golden age to earth. She moved the capital to Luoyang, renaming it the Divine Capital, and built a Mingtang Enlightenment Hall so tall it was said to pierce the clouds. She changed the name of the dynasty to Zhou, hearkening back to the ancient, glorious roots of Chinese civilization. This was a psychological masterpiece. She was not just a rebel. She was a restorer. Under her rule, the empire did not collapse. It expanded. She conquered parts of the Silk Road, stabilized the economy, and made the civil service exam the heart of the government, a system that would influence the world for 1,000 years. Stage 5, the Zhang brothers and the final coup. Every legend has its winter. In her 70s and 80s, the Empress grew paranoid. She sought the secret to eternal life and surrounded herself with the Zhang brothers, 2 young, handsome courtiers who exploited her fading health to seize power for themselves. The court, once terrified of her, now began to pity her. The very scholars she had raised up now plotted her downfall, not because she was a woman, but because she had allowed the Zhang brothers to corrupt her legacy. In 705, a group of generals and ministers stormed the palace. They executed the Zhang brothers and forced the elderly, ailing Wu Zetian to abdicate the throne back to her son. She was moved to a secondary palace, stripped of her titles as emperor, and spent her final months in quiet reflection. She had climbed the highest mountain, seen the world at her feet, and now, the path was leading back into the mist. As the winter of her life approached, Wu Zetian looked back at a trail of broken traditions and fallen rivals. She was the only woman to ever sit on the dragon throne as a recognized emperor. Yet, in her final act of humility, or perhaps ultimate defiance, she requested a wordless stele uninscribed tablet for her tomb. No words were carved to praise her, and none to condemn her. She left her legacy to the judgment of time itself, knowing that her actions spoke louder than any eulogy could. The story of Wu Zetian reminds us that history is not just a series of dates, but a collection of choices made by those brave enough to seize the moment. Thank you for traveling through time with us today. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Was she a villain or a visionary? It is time to rest now. May your dreams be as grand as an empire and as peaceful as a quiet garden. Good night, everyone.